Hi, Mark here from Carquestions. Let me try to explain to you the Kane and Gilbert hoax. What these people told Congress last week. I can't believe it. Unbelievable.
What Mr. Kane said was basically that the Toyota could have full acceleration and the computer would never know. And he talked about 3 wires in particular, that if they were damaged by corrosion or they had some kind of crack in them, that in just the right circumstances, under just the right conditions, 3 wires could make a Toyota go out of control and there'd be no code stored in the computer and therefore no evidence. Something that is lacking in the plaintiff's cases when they go and sue people about sudden unintended acceleration. Something Mr. Kane is particularly interested in doing and his company SRS. So let's have a close look at this and see what exactly they were talking about. These people were talking about 3 different parts in particular. An electronic gas pedal, which this car has. It looks just like this inside. And it just has wires coming out the top. Then here's the throttle body, right here. And it has an electric motor right there that will open and close it. When you step on the gas, electric signals go to a car's computer that's either inside the car or under the hood. And from there, they come back and they open this throttle. And you go as fast as you command the car to go, either you floor it or not. Mr. Gilbert claims that under the right conditions, 3 wires can get corroded or cracked or damaged in some manner. The problem with this theory is we've got 3 wires here. And in his scenario, they'd have to develop small cracks, which I put in here. You can see them right there, like that. Small cracks. Everybody can understand that. But in his theory, these wires would have to touch. And even with the cracks, it's hard to make the wires touch. Something would have to move them to do this. They have to go to ground as well. And they have to go to ground in a specific way. And in his case, he took a common resistor and attached it to the 2 wires, and then he says this goes to ground and provides 200 ohms worth of resistance. Now you can imagine this naturally occurring in the car. You'd have to have, not a resistor of course, like this, you'd have to have corrosion build up. And the corrosion would have to build up just so that it was 200 ohms. Any less, and the car's computer will recognize it. Any more, and the car's computer will recognize a fault. In his scenario, he simply fooled around with a car until he could get it so that the code wouldn't show or wouldn't set. That's what he invented. He invented a way to make sure that the car's computer wouldn't get the signal that there was a fault. In Mr. Gilbert's theory, these wires that would be in the loom here bundled with other wires, just like this one here, there's lots in there and there's a few in there, these wires would have to go to ground. Most of the underhood of the car is plastic or painted surface, and you can't get a good ground on that. You have to have bare metal. That's a big problem under the hood of a modern car. There's not a lot of good grounds, very few. The other problem he's going to have, explaining this, is the wire has to move. His wires have to magically, at one single point in time, move and stay connected to the corroded ground and produce 200 ohms of resistance. And they have to stay connected for as long as the car is going out of control. And as we know from the stories, that can be anywhere from 10-15 seconds to minutes. The likelihood of a wire in one of these looms getting loose, going to a good ground somewhere under the hood here, and staying connected for half a minute, that is virtually impossible. The other thing is, please, this man, Mr. Gilbert, is insulting the intelligence of every mechanic and investigator that has ever been born. If that was to occur, he certainly would have found evidence in some of these cars. Corrosion and cracks can be found after an accident. They're a relatively simple matter to find, as a matter of fact. Now, one of the other things Mr. Gilbert said had to happen was that a third wire, and this represents a third wire. This one had to develop a crack at exactly the same time the other two wires did. And this one, instead of just going to some metal ground somewhere on the car and touching, this wire had to go and touch another wire that had power in it. That's really hard to find. And if it wasn't hard to find, you'd find, again, evidence after the crash. We've had lots of these investigations, and they're still ongoing, of course, but the complaints, everybody needs to know, these complaints are not being thoroughly investigated and reported. They just are not. You heard the president of Toyota say they have to investigate some of this. You heard him say they had no real-world examples of a failed gas pedal. It just has to make you wonder.
Well, there you have it. It seems every great sudden unintended acceleration case, from the Audi to the Ford cruise controls, it seems each one of those has their own huckster. In the case of the Audi, it was William Rosenbluth, who jury-rigged the transmission for 60 minutes for their show out of control. For the Ford's cruise control that they show on Dateline, which they don't show too much anymore, those ones were Samuel Serro. He was defeated in court many times. Both those individuals are just like Mr. Gilbert. They were working for attorneys or expert engineering companies who provided their services to attorneys, to people who were suing car companies. So you have there, it was Audi, you have Ford, and now I guess it's Toyota's turn.
So, to sum up Mr. Gilbert's theory, 3 wires have to develop cracks, 2 of them have to go to ground through corrosion of exactly 200 ohms worth of resistance, and a third wire, it has to crack as well, and it has to find 12 volts, at least 12 volts or 5 volts worth of power, and short to that. And the wires have to stay connected for as long as the unintended acceleration lasts. And the wires can't show any sign that this occurred. Now, I'll show you the simple explanation. What they did in simple terms is they took a perfectly functioning alarm system that would record something, and they put their own brand of bubble gum right on top of it to keep it from recording that something had failed. That is a shame, and that is completely wrong. Many thanks to all the techs in US and Canada for their information. It's invaluable, and for your contributions and comments from other posters. Thank you very much, and hopefully we can get to the bottom of this. It's a very serious safety issue. It has to deal with sudden unintended acceleration, not a faulty pedal, not a faulty computer, not gremlins in the wiring. None of that. We've had 1.2 billion cars on the earth, and no one has ever found one yet. The problem is the location of the pedals and the design of the pedals and how people interact with them. And it's not just Toyota's problem. It is every car manufacturer's problem. Thanks again.